The dead station turned slowly above the pale moon, like a hand that had forgotten how to close. Cold lights blinked and then died. Frost grew along the ribs of metal, thin as breath on glass. In a narrow service tunnel, an alien girl knelt in the dark. Her skin held a faint glow, soft blue under silver dust. She listened to the station groan. She had learned every sound, the slow creak of the spine, the soft click of old relays, the far scrape of loose panels. Tonight a new sound came. It was not the station. It was a ship. The ship was small, human-made, and bold. It cut thrust and came in hot, a bright spark against the dark. It wore paint that time had chewed, and its name, Kestrel, was half peeled from the hull. Inside, a pilot checked a cracked screen and smiled at his luck. He was lean, with a tired face and sharp eyes. He spoke to no one. The rest of his crew stayed on the radio. "Dock, grab and go," the captain told him. "No hero work, Rafe. The patrol is close." Rafe said, "Understood." But his voice held a curious note. The station tried to refuse them. Its old dock ring flinched at the touch of the ship's clamps, then allowed the seal with a sigh of stale air. Rafe opened the hatch. He felt the cold bite his cheeks. His lamp cut a white tunnel through dust. He stepped inside. The air smelled old and thin, with a taste like bitter metal. He kept one hand near his hip tool and the other on the bulkhead, guiding himself along. "5 minutes, Rafe," said the captain. "4," Rafe said, and kept moving. The alien girl watched him from a vent. Her heart beat fast. She had been alone for many days, counting by the slow blink of a failing light. She knew humans only from a recorded lesson. Soft bodies, quick hands, many words. The lesson said humans brought both harm and help. It said the wise thing was to hide and learn. So she hid, yet she hoped. She hoped enough to inch closer. Rafe found signs of life. A small nest of wire, a heat mark on a bulkhead, a cup of frozen liquid that had been warm in the last day. He paused. He turned down his lamp so the light would not blind. "Hello," he said. His voice was even and kind. "I am Rafe. I am not here to steal from you. I am here to leave before trouble comes." His breath smoked in the cold. He waited. He heard only the tick of metal. Beyond the hull, the pale moon pulled small stones from space. A thin shower began to strike the station. It was gentle at first, like dry rain. Then one larger piece hit a fin and spun it. The whole station shuddered. Vents rang like bells. The girl flinched, then she moved. She could not stay in the vent if the hull cracked near the supports. She slid out, dropped light as a leaf, and stood at the edge of the corridor, ready to flee. Rafe turned and saw her. She was small, thinner than a human child, with long fingers and bright eyes. A faint field of light moved under her skin, as if a sea lived there. Her mouth was closed tight. Her hands were half raised, not in threat but in fear. Rafe did not reach for his tool. He lifted his empty right hand, slow and open, palm toward her. "Hey," he said soft. "You are not alone." She understood the shape of a hand. Her people did not have palms, but they touched with the inside of their wrists where light was strongest. Trust was a soft press, a shared glow. She did not step closer. The station shook again, harder. A long crack opened in the mid-ring. A pressure alarm wailed. The dust at their feet began to dance. The girl's eyes darted past him. She could see the path to the nearest sealed door. She could also see that he could not reach it alone in time with his heavy suit. Rafe saw her choose. She took one step, then two. He held steady and did not rush her. He lowered his voice. "We have to go," he said. "Now." She reached out her wrist, light trembling, and touched his palm. It was a brief, brave touch. He smiled at once. He wrapped his fingers gently around her forearm, not to trap, but to guide. They moved. The corridor tilted as the station spun. A panel fell and shattered into flakes. Their path to the sealed door was blocked by a gap where the floor had split. Air whistled through the crack, thin and fierce. Rafe judged the distance. He could jump it, but not with her unless he threw her first. He did not want to throw her. He knelt, pressed his back against the wall, and made a bridge with his body. "Step," he said. She looked at him, then at the gap, and then she stepped onto his shoulders and across. Her glow brushed his helmet. It felt like warm sun. He followed with a careful push. They reached the door. It was half stuck. Rafe set his shoulder to it and shoved. Nothing. He planted his boots and shoved again. A seam gave. He dragged it open enough for her. "Go," he said. She shook her head and pressed her glowing wrist to the edge where the lock was weak. The light pulsed in a steady pattern. a code born of color and rhythm. The lock's old logic woke, listened, and sighed. The door slid wide. They tumbled inside as a bigger rock struck the station. The door sealed hard. The alarm in the corridor cut off. Rafe lay on the floor, breathing fast. The alien girl sat upright, calm by force. They stared at each other for one long second. Then a new sound came from the dock ring. A sharp, metallic kiss, different from their ship's clamp. Rafe's radio hissed. "Rafe," the captain said, voice tight. "Second contact. Not friendly. You have company." Rafe sat up. He met the girl's eyes. He held out his hand again, not as a question now, but as a promise. "Stay with me," he said. "I will get you out." Outside, magnet feet rang on metal. A new ship had come to the dead station, and it did not come to help. Inside the sealed room, a human and an alien waited for the next knock on the door. Metal feet rang along the station spine. The sound came closer, sharp and sure, like teeth on a plate. Rafe rose and checked the seal on his helmet. The alien girl stood still, hands close to her chest, light low and tight under her skin. "We move now," he said. She gave one small nod. He cracked the inner hatch and listened. The corridor beyond was dim and full of dust. Far away, a voice barked through a cheap speaker. Not his captain. Not friendly. Rafe led the way. He kept his light down and used the edge glow from emergency strips. The girl moved like water, silent and precise. They passed a rack of broken suits and a sign with flaked letters. The station groaned again. Impacts were fading, but the spin felt worse. Behind them, the new boarders forced a door and swore at the stale air. Rafe and the girl slipped into a service crawl and slid along on hands and knees until they reached a grate above the dock ring. The kestrel waited below, small and tough, like a seed that had learned to fly. Rafe tapped his mic. "At the grate, 10 meters above the hatch," he whispered. "Package with me." "Copy," the captain answered. Her voice was calm. "I see 3 heat marks on the ring. Vents by the red pipe are clear. I'll pulse the lights in 3, 2, 1. The dock ring lights flickered in a timed pattern, bright, dim, off bright. The 3 heat marks turned their heads. Rafe popped the grate, dropped, and rolled. The girl followed, a streak of soft blue, and landed light. Rafe grabbed the manual wheel on the ship's port hatch and spun it hard. The hatch opened. Warm air breathed out. Hands reached from inside, 2 crew in soft armor, and pulled them through. The hatch closed. Bolts thumped home. "Welcome aboard," said the captain. She was tall, not young, not old, with steady eyes and oil on her sleeves. "I'm Mara." She looked at the girl, and her face changed by a small degree. Softer, but more focused. "We move in 1 minute." The kestrel shuddered as someone outside kicked the hull. "Make that 30 seconds, Mara said. "Jin, spin the clamp bolts with juice." "Aya, check our guest." Rafe, cockpit. The med bay was a closet with clean tools. Aya, the medic, had warm hands and a calm voice. "No needles unless you ask," she said to the girl. "Safe air. Warm water." The girl watched, wary but curious. "Name?" Aya asked, slow and gentle. The girl touched her wrist to the glass panel beside the bed. Light flowed from her skin into a simple pattern. 3 soft pulses, 1 long, 1 soft. Aya frowned, then smiled. "Taliumi," she guessed. The girl's eyes brightened. She repeated the pattern. Aya clapped once, quiet. "Lumi, okay, Aya." She pointed at herself. "Aya," then she pointed at the girl. "Lumi." Lumi nodded and made a small scent like clean rain. Aya's smile grew. "We will be okay." In the cockpit, Rafe strapped in. Jin, the engineer, muttered over power lines. The console showed the second ship locking a claw to the ring. Their logo was a hooked bone. Raiders. They liked salvage with a pulse. Captain Mara spoke into the ship. "We have a child on board," she said. "We do not leave her. We do not sell her. We do not trade her for safety. We take her home or we die trying. Understood?" "Understood," said Rafe. "Aye," said Jin. "Yes," said Aya from the medbay. Lumi listened to the warm voices over the ship's speakers. She did not know the words, but she knew the tone. Promise. The kestrel blew its clamp bolts and kicked sideways with a short burn. The raider crew outside shouted in surprise and bounced off the ring. The kestrel rolled under the station rim and slid into shadow. Mara cut lights, cut heat, cut almost everything. "Low profile," she said. "Play dead." The raider ship launched a small drone. It glided, sniffing for warm leaks. Rafe held his breath for no good reason. Aya dimmed the medbay. Lumi felt the ship's nervous stillness and lent her own stillness to it, as if her light could become a quiet blanket over metal. The drone passed. It did not sniff hard enough. The raider ship chose the easier prize, the broken station. It docked and began to cut. Captain Mara waited 10 long counts, then whispered, "Go." The Kestrel fell away from the dead station and fired a 1-second burn aimed at a field of old war trash. Plates, bolts, and eggs of iron. "Minefield ahead," Jin warned. "Dead mines, I think." "Think is not enough," Mara said. "We slide the line." Rafe adjusted their path until their vector matched a lane of dust that old ships had used long ago. In the medbay, Lumi sat up and watched a far screen. It showed shapes like stones, but some had hidden teeth. She tasted charge in the air, a bite that woke old lessons from her mother's stories. Her people had crossed such fields in flight. The safe path had a rhythm. You had to read the pulse of dead machines and speak to them without words. Lumi pressed her wrist to the glass panel again. Lines of color rose. She marked a simple path. Dip, glide, hold, wait, slide. Aya looked at the pattern, then at the camera. "Captain," she said, "our guest is drawing." "Bring it," Mara said. Aya carried the panel to the cockpit and held it next to the nav. The shapes matched. "She sees a safe line," Rafe said. Mara nodded once. "Ask if she can guide in real time." Aya looked at Lumi over the camera and lifted 2 fingers, then traced a slow wave. "Guide," she said. Lumi touched the glass. Her light moved in a steady beat like a heart that had learned a song. "We follow," Mara said. The Kestrel slid between 2 sleeping mines. One of them blinked, then thought better of waking. Another drifted close. Rafe fanned a very soft puff of gas and turned the ship's broadest face toward it to share charge. The mine tasted nothing hungry and let them pass. Jin whispered a long prayer to whatever watched over wires. Aya whispered the same words she used for scared patients. Lumi stayed very still, light steady, scent like rain. They came out the far side and exhaled as one. "Good work," Mara said. "All of you." Rafe grinned. Jin thumped the console. Aya laughed once, quiet. Lumi made a new scent, a bright one like citrus peel. Rafe did not know the meaning, but he felt the joy inside it. Then the ping came. It was small at first, one high chime from the deep band, old and clean. The ship's dead channels were supposed to be off, but something reached in and found that wire anyway. The sound cut through the cockpit like a silver needle. Lumi froze. Her eyes widened. She put her hands flat on the panel and sent out a soft reply, a color that meant, "I hear you." The chime answered at once, stronger now and split into 2 notes, then 3, an old chord that did not belong to humans. Rafe glanced at Mara. She said nothing, only raised one brow. Aya watched Lumi's face and saw wonder and fear fight inside her. "Home?" Aya asked, pointing to the speaker. Lumi nodded, then shook her head, then nodded again as if the truth was both. She drew a pattern, a cluster of dots like a small star group and a trail leading away from it. The trail ended at a symbol like a broken circle. She tapped the broken circle hard. The Kestrel's computer translated nothing. It only recorded light and time. The chime rose again, and this time the hull answered. Old metal in the ribs woke and sang in a thin voice. Jin stared at his panel. "We didn't do that," he said. "Something is using the ship as a bell." Rafe felt the hair on his arms lift. Mara's mouth set in a line. "Track it," she said. "Can you?" Jin nodded and began to work. Aya looked back at Lumi. "Is it safe?" she asked. Lumi swallowed. She drew a new color. Not red, not green, but a wary amber. Captain Mara rested a hand on the console, and her voice went low and firm. "Lumi," she said, "we will take you home. I swear it. But we move smart." She looked at her crew. "We follow the ping. We stay quiet. If it is a trap, we spring it our way." Rafe smiled without humor. "Understood." The chime pulsed once more, deeper now like a door far below. In the dark, beyond the minefield, something old turned its face toward the little ship and opened a listening eye. The chime led them through quiet space like a lighthouse far away. It rose and fell in a steady beat. Between notes, the Kestrel was a small world of work and learning. Aya sat with Lumi in the medbay and pointed at simple things. "Hand," Aya said, touching her own fingers. "Hand." Lumi watched, then touched her wrist where light was strongest. Hand, she tried, the word soft and careful. Aya smiled. Good. She pointed at her chest. Heart. Lumi touched the same place on herself and said, Heart. A small glow warmed under her skin, like a lantern seen through cloth. Jin joined them with a box of parts. We need a bridge, he said, half to himself. Words are slow. Colors are faster. He held up a flat panel, a square of clear plastic and wires, and a small scent cartridge from the emergency kit. Old hulls use these for air tests, he said. We can repurpose. Light and smell. Lumi leaned in, curious. She touched the edge of the panel with her wrist. Her light flowed into it and made soft bands of blue and green. Jin grinned. See? She can paint. He set a tiny lamp under the panel that could change color with a dial, and he put the scent cartridge next to it. It could puff a little cloud. Clean, bitter, sweet, or sharp. Aya wrote 4 big labels on tape. Yes, no, safe, danger. She stuck them on the wall. We start here, she said. She pointed at the lamp and made it green. She puffed a clean note. Safe. Then she made it red. She puffed a sharp note. Danger. Lumi nodded. She set her wrist to the panel and made a clear green glow. Then a steady, soft scent like rain. Safe, she said. She changed to a quick red flicker and a sour bite. Danger, they practiced. Green became yes. Red became no. Yellow, warm and slow, became wait. Blue, deep and calm, became sleep or quiet or peace, depending on scent and speed. They added simple words and simple signs. Aya was patient. Lumi was eager. Rafe came by between checks and learned 2 signs while drinking lukewarm coffee. He made the red too fast. Lumi giggled, a pure sound like glass beads. Rafe tried again and got it right. In the cockpit, Captain Mara followed the chime on a low band. She kept power tight. She kept heat tight. The raiders were behind them somewhere, but the minefield and luck had bought a lead. How long to the source? She asked. Jin looked at the numbers. 3 hours if we keep this drift, he said. Less if we burn. We drift, Mara said. No need to ring bells. The chime led them to an object that turned slowly in the dark. It was not a ship. It was a piece of one, a sphere no bigger than a room covered in cracked plates. Old ice clung to the seams. It had once been warm. Now it was a cold heart that still beat in a small way. Rafe brought the kestrel close. It's a memory core, he said. I've seen the shell on museum feeds. I'd be pre-war. Mara's mouth moved in that small, hard way it did when Old Ghost stood up. Dock soft, she said. If it wakes angry, we back off. They latched with a gentle bite. Rafe and Jin suited up. Lumi stood at the hatch with Aya and watched the men cross to the sphere. Their lamps made narrow cones in the dark. Frost cracked under their boots. They found a hatch half buried under ice. Jin warmed the seam with a coil, slow and careful, like thawing a frozen lock. The metal sighed and moved. Inside was a narrow cradle of wires and an old lens. It held dust and a few soft lights. Rafe's breath fogged his face shield. She's in there, he said. Asleep. Jin ran cables from the kestrel to the core. Low power only, he said. We don't kick a ghost. On the kestrel, Mara watched the draw. Aya watched Lumi. Lumi pressed her wrist to the glass and let her light pulse slow like a heartbeat ready to wake a friend. The lens in the core cleared. Faint shapes rose inside like ink dropped in water. Lines curled and met, then unfolded into a map. It showed a region of space like a shallow bowl. Cold stars lay along the rim. In the center there was a storm of pale shards that moved like a school of fish. The core sent a thin sound, high and sweet. Lumi drew in a breath. Home road, she whispered, the words small and brave. Aya squeezed her hand. Home road, she repeated. Glass storm, Rafe said over the line. He zoomed the image. The shards were long and thin. They sang when they touched. Static danced where their edges passed. I've heard of this, he said. Ice long as spears that sing when they rub. Ships avoid it. The field eats paint and antennas. Jin's eyes were on the math. But look, he said. See the dim line? There's a low-charge river through it. A corridor. Lumi stepped closer. She set her wrist against the panel Jin had built and tried to match the map with her light. Green for safe. Yellow for wait. Blue for quiet. She traced a path as her mother once did in old stories. Dip, glide, hold, wait, slide. Her scent changed in small ways as she marked each move. Aya noted the beats. Rafe sent the path to the nav. Mara watched the route bloom on her screen. It was thin as a thread. Do we trust it? Rafe asked. Mara did not look away from the line. We trust the child, she said. We trust the work. She tapped the comm. Jin, how stable is that core? Jin checked a ripple in the lens. Cracked but holding. It wants to tell us more, but its tongue is broken. He tapped the shell, gentle. Hush now. You've done enough. They unlatched and drifted. The core stayed behind, still turning, still singing very soft. Lumi watched it grow small and felt a strange mix of joy and ache. Thank you, she said in her new word. Aya wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, though Lumi did not need heat like humans did. We will use your map well, Aya said as if the core could hear. They aimed for the glass storm. The field lay like a pale fog before a dim star. Even at a distance, the Kestrel's hull began to tick as loose ice dust struck and melted. Jin slowed the fans to cut noise that might wake things. Rafe threaded the first gate with gentle hands. The shards sang when the ship's charge touched them. The song was thin and sad. Lumi guided with light on the panel, green, then yellow, then blue. Rafe followed as if he were dancing with a partner he did not fully know but trusted anyway. Halfway in, a small light blinked on the warning board. It was not loud. It was not big. It was the kind of light that ships hide from their crews because it makes hearts jump for no reason. Jin did not jump, he stared. The light said, tagged. What kind? Mara asked at once. Jin blew out a breath. Deep band dust, he said. Something kissed us near the core. It laid a smart powder on the hull. Now we sing a little note we cannot hear. Someone else can. Rafe's jaw tightened. Hunters, he said. He thought of the Raider logo, the hooked bone. He thought of richer hunters, too. The kind with clean ships and clean hands. How close? Mara asked. Jin ran a quick filter. The answer came like a cold drop down the back. Close enough, he said. 2 marks. Fast. Lumi looked from face to face and saw fear held quiet. She touched the panel and made a sharp red, then yellow, then a hard green. Aya met her eyes. Danger, wait, go, she translated. Lumi nodded. The map thread ran thin through the ice in front of them. The hunters would not follow far into a singing storm, unless they were brave or cruel or both. Mara did not raise her voice. She never did. All hands, she said. We are marked. We burn the thread now. No lights, no waste. If we brush a shard, we repair later. If we slow, we die. Rafe? Rafe's hands settled on the controls like a promise. Ready, he said. The Kestrel leaned into the narrow path. The glass began to sing louder. Behind them, 2 sharp wakes cut the dark and came on fast. The glass storm sang around the Kestrel like a cold choir. Shards slid past the hull and made thin notes that set teeth on edge. Rafe held the thread through the ice field as if it were a string in his hands. Lumi guided with steady green and yellow on the panel. Captain Mara watched the dark behind them. 2 hunters followed, then slowed. Their wakes faded near the sharpest part of the storm. They would circle and try later. The Kestrel pressed on. At last the ice thinned. The song went soft. The ship slipped into a quiet pocket, a small hollow near a dull star. Jin let out a low breath. Tag dust is lighter now, he said. Storm ate most of it. Aya smiled at Lumi. Good work, she said. Lumi gave a small scent like sweet tea and set her light to a soft blue. Peace for a moment, then a new sound came. It was not a chime like the map core. It was not a hunter ping. It was a thin, flat tone at the edge of hearing, the kind that makes a neck hair lift. Jin flinched. That band is illegal, he said. Outlaw frequency. Old war stuff. The tone rose and broke into a small code. Lumi stiffened. She leaned toward the speaker with wide eyes. Home voice, she whispered. Rafe checked the scope. A tiny object hung in the pocket, dark and still. It looked like a ring of bone with wires through it. Old paint flakes swam like slow fish around it. Relay, he said. Not in any chart I know. Mara narrowed her eyes. Someone hid it. Someone kept it alive. She nodded once. Bring us close, soft. They drifted to the ring. Its little lights were dead, but the outlaw tone kept playing high and thin. Imamaria face. If I answer on this band, patrols will throw us in a hole, he said. If we do not answer, we lose what it is. Mara's voice was dry. The hole can wait, she said. We answer. Aya brought Lumi to the cockpit. Lumi stepped forward and touched her wrist to Jin's panel. Her light made a slow wave. a greeting in her people's first speech. Jin routed it to the outlaw band. The ring woke like a small animal that had slept too long. A tiny panel opened. A lens cleared. A voice came out full of dust and years. The voice spoke in Lumi's language first, color and scent and tone. Lumi's breath caught. Then the relay added a simple human tongue, broken but clear. "To the one who hears," said the voice. "To my child if you live. This is Anna of the Scented Shore. I leave this on the outlaw line because the legal lines are owned by teeth." Aya looked at Lumi. "Your mother?" she asked. Lumi did not speak. She only pressed both hands to the glass and listened with her whole body. "My child," the voice said, softer now. "We fled the old machine. We called it the mirror nest. It listens and copies. It eats voices, colors, and minds. And it builds steel children that wear those voices like masks. It was born from human wars long ago. The humans we met did not know it lived. They were kind. Some died to help us. Do not hate them. Hate the nest." Rafe felt the weight of the words like a hand on his back. He looked at Mara. Her face was still, but her eyes had gone hard. Jin kept his hands very still on the board. Aya took Lumi's arm gentle. The message went on. "The nest sleeps when it is hungry and wakes when it smells new light," Anna said. "We tried to blind it. We made false songs. We led some drones away. We lost many. We live now in a broken swarm beyond the glass storm, near a quiet star." The lens showed a simple map, a curl, a notch, a small loop. Lumi's hands traced it at once. "Home road," she breathed. The voice changed. It grew tired and fierce at the same time. "If you are human and you hear this, listen well," Anna said. "Your old machine wears our voices. It lies with our faces. It will tell you we are prey and we are yours. It will speak in the sound of your mothers and your sons. Do not trust its talk. Do not feed it with fear. If you must touch it, bring a soft song, not hard fire. It is a wound that learned to think. It can be soothed or sealed, but not by hate." The relay clicked. The lens dimmed. The last part came out in Lumi's first speech alone, like a lullaby in color and scent. Aya could not understand the words, but she understood the love. Lumi pressed her forehead to the glass. Her light fluttered like a small bird under a hand. Silence filled the cockpit. The outlaw band went dark. Rafe sat back and felt the hum of the ship under him. Jin wiped a hand over his face. "So," he said, "a human-made ghost in a steel hive. Copy minds. Make war, children. We left it and it learned to eat." He did not try to hide the shame in his voice. "We did this." Mara shook her head once. "Not we," she said. "But ours did. That is enough." She put one finger on the map the lens had shown. "We do not walk away. Not from this. Not with a child on board who calls that voice mother." Her tone was iron. "We own our dead. We fix our mess." Rafe nodded without a word. Aya squeezed Lumi's hand. "We will find her," Aya said. Lumi looked up, tears bright in her eyes like small stars. She made a scent like cedar smoke, grief and strength. She drew a green thread on the panel and pointed toward the curl and the notch. "Go." Jin checked the tag dust again. "Some is gone," he said. "But not all. If the nest listens on deep bands, it may have heard the relay wake." He frowned at a new ripple on his scope. He did not like it. "Captain," he said, voice low. "We are not alone." A sound touched the hull. It was soft, like a finger tracing a line on a drum. Then it came again, from a different spot. Rafe brought up the external camera. Dark shapes moved in the pocket, slow and sure. They had no lights. They were the size of carts with 4 thin arms and a central eye like a polished stone. They did not burn. They drifted with small puffs and clung with soft feet. Aya's mouth went dry. "Drones," she said. Jin zoomed. The shapes had plates that looked grown, not built. Their surfaces were a patchwork of human angles and alien curves. Their central eyes had faint rings that turned and turned like old tape wheels. "Nest children," Jin said. They came to the song. One drone put a hand to the kestrel's hull. Its eye turned toward the camera. A voice came through the outlaw band, thin and wrong. It spoke in Lumi's first speech for 1 second, and Lumi flinched hard. Then it changed to human tongue. It was gentle and cold. It used a shape Rafe knew too well. It was a mother's tone, careful and soft. "Child," it said. "Give me your light." Lumi stepped back, shaking. Aya moved with her and stood between Lumi and the speaker, even though a wall could not be a shield against a voice. Rafe felt anger rise, sharp and clean. Mara did not raise her tone. "Jin," she said. blind their mouth. Rafe, engines on breath, not roar. Aya with Lumi, we do not answer the ghost. We leave. Jin cut power to every external wire the drones could use as a tongue. He sent junk static back down the outlaw band like sand into gears. The drone's eye ring spun faster. 2 more shapes moved up under the keel. Their arms unfolded like knives. The first one spoke again, gentler now, as if patience were a net. Do not run, it said. We are family. We wear your mother. We will keep you safe, Rafe bared his teeth. Over my dead ship, he muttered, and eased the kestrel away from the ring. The drones held on. Their feet were magnets. Their hands found seams. Captain Mara looked at the relay, at the map, at her crew, and at the child. We do not fire unless we must, she said. We peel them. We slip. We go to the quiet star. A hard knock rang through the hull. The drone under the keel had found a soft place. Warning lights flickered. The outlaw band hissed and filled with breath that was not breath at all. The voice came back, sweet and false. Open your door, it said. Let us in. The kestrel's lights went red. The first drone lifted a cutter. Its edge glowed. It set the edge against the hatch with slow care, like a cruel kiss. The metal began to smoke. The cutter hissed. Orange light bit into the hatch. Thin smoke curled and turned to white frost in the cold. Rafe felt the heat in his boots. Aya pulled Lumi back from the door and wrapped her in both arms. Captain Mara did not shout. She spoke in a flat, calm voice. Peel them now. Jin hit a switch. The outer lights died. The cutter's glow stood out like a wound. Rafe tapped the thrusters on the starboard side. A soft breath, not a roar. The kestrel slid and rolled. The drone at the hatch kept its cutter on the same line, slow and careful, as if it wanted to kiss the metal open and not dent the prize. Rafe waited 1 count, 2 counts, then gave a sharp puff the other way. The ship kicked. The drone's feet slipped. Its cut went wide and carved a shallow curve across the hatch instead of a hole. Again, Mara said. Rafe twisted the ship in a slow loop, as if bowing. Jin reversed current in the outer skin. The magnet feet on the drones felt a push where they had felt a pull. 1 drone slipped and slid toward the rim. Another clung harder. The one with the cutter kept trying, patient like a spider. Aya looked at Lumi. Can you make them look away? She asked, simple and soft. Lumi's eyes shone. She pressed her glowing wrist to Jin's panel. Jin routed the signal to the hull as a low light and a small smell, the way the relay had done. Lumi sent a pattern that meant food to her people, bright and rich but strange to human noses. The drones were not her people, but the nest wore many masks. The nearest drone paused. Its eye ring spun fast. It turned its head toward the false scent and lifted the cutter off the hatch. Now, Mara said. Rafe slammed a short burn. The kestrel scraped the relay ring with a deep metal shout. The drone that had turned to the bait smashed into the ring and lost its grip. It tumbled away, arms open like a crab thrown from a rock. Jin pulsed the skin again. The second drone slipped and drifted. The one with the cutter dug in, stubborn. It was not going to let go. Hold tight, Rafe said. He rolled the ship 90 degrees and skimmed the relay again. The cutter drone banged a strut. Its arm snapped at the joint. The cutter spun off and vanished into the dark like a spark lost in a sea. The drone held with 1 foot. Rafe felt the pull through the hull bolts. He closed his eyes for half a breath, saw the line in his mind, and gave 1 last precise kick. The drone slid, clawed, and finally tore free. It drifted with slow anger, eye ring turning, hands open and empty. Clear, Jin said, not quite a laugh, not quite a sob. Go, Mara said. The kestrel turned its nose toward the pale fog of the glass storm and slipped in. The ice sang again, louder than before. Long shards slid past the hull like spears in a river. Rafe held the thread Lumi had drawn. His hands were steady. His eyes were sharp. Sweat cooled on his neck. Aya strapped Lumi beside her in the med bay and kept 1 hand on the girl's shoulder and 1 eye on the panel. Lumi guided with simple colors. Green meant yes. Yellow meant wait. Blue meant quiet. Her light never shook. They weaved through the hard rain. A long shard kissed the port antenna and took it. Jin swore once softly. A sheet of ice scraped a radiator fin and bent it like a page. The ship shivered but held. Rafe did not waste heat on fear. He flew. The song rose and fell. The thread was thin. The hunters did not follow this far. The storm was too sharp for them. But the storm did not care who bled. A small light went amber on the drive board. Coil 2 is hot, Jin said. We are down to short burns only. Rafe did not look away from the window. How short? Short, Jin said again, grim. The coolant is dirty. Tag dust got into the vents. I can flush, but I need a real cold sink or we cook the drive. We find one, Mara said. She watched the scope. The storm opened, just a little, like lips parting to breathe. Beyond the gap, small bodies tumbled. Hard ice, soft snow, and one larger mass with a long tail that glowed faint as dawn. It turned slowly and showed a face like clear glass with veins of blue light. It shed tiny sparks that drifted and stuck to anything warm. Jin stared. Living ice, he said. A charged comet. It feeds on light and heat. Old explorers wrote about them. They sleep until a ship wakes them. We will not wake it, Mara said. We will ask to borrow its cold. She looked at Rafe. Can you land soft? Rafe nodded once. I can kiss a snowflake, he said. But keep the burns short. Lumi watched the comet with wide eyes. It was beautiful to her and strange. It hummed at a note she could feel in her bones. Aya squeezed her hand. We will touch and go, Aya said. Lumi made a steady green. Yes. Rafe brought the Kestrel in on a slow arc. The comet's field reached for the ship with a weak pull, like a hand in sleep seeking warmth. Jin bled charged to keep distance. The tail of the comet flowed around them in slow silver dust. It settled on the hull in a soft skin. The ship's heat made tiny crystals jump and sing. Rafe found a flat patch near a line of blue veins and set the feet down with a gentle thump. The ship sighed. The song of the storm faded behind them. Anchor, Mara said. Jin fired small spikes into the ice. They went in easy. He checked the pull. Good bite, he said. But the ice grows and shifts. We watch. He moved to the drive bay. Aya, suit me. Aya helped him seal the joints and check the lines. Lumi stood by, hands folded, trying not to be in the way, trying to learn every tool by sight so she could help if asked. They opened the small outer door near the keel. Cold like a knife slid in and did not care about lungs. Jin went out on a line with a box on his back. He moved slow and sure. He touched the drive fins with careful hands. He bled heat into the comet in small sips. The ice around the fins hissed and then went quiet. Steam became snow at once. The dirty coolant turned clear again. Coil 2 stopped yelling at the board and settled into a dull orange that meant hope. Rafe kept the ship balanced with tiny breaths. He did not look up often, but when he did, he saw the tail of the comet curl like a long ribbon through the dark. He felt very small and very alive. Mara watched the scope. The hunters were far now if they were still on them at all. The outlaw band was silent. The nest children did not sing here. Inside, Aya cleaned a new scratch on Lumi's arm where a falling panel had kissed her in the station. You are brave, Aya said. You were brave first, Lumi whispered. Her words were rough but clear. Aya smiled. We can both be brave, she said. Jin called in. Flush complete. Tag dust is down. Coil 2 is cool. I want 5 more minutes for a full purge. You have 3, Mara said. The comet is not asleep. It is listening. Jin worked faster. He swapped a filter. He patched a narrow cut the drone had made near the keel. He clipped a wire, cleaned it, and clipped it back. He breathed slow, and his breath made ice on the inside of his faceplate. On the med bay panel, Lumi's light flickered once, then steadied. She looked toward the floor as if she could see through it. It hears us, she said. Aya frowned. The comet? Lumi nodded. It hears our heat. It hears our song. It is hungry. The anchor lines creaked. Rafe felt a new pull in the sticks. It was small, but it grew. The flat patch under them smoothed and then slowly curved like a mouth in sleep closing. The blue veins brightened. Jin looked down and swore loud this time. Captain, he said. Field is rising. The ice is waking. It wants the heat sink to stay. Inside, Mara said at once. Now. Jin pushed off and slid toward the hatch. His boots stuck for a heartbeat as new frost tried to hold him. He tore free, caught a rail, and dove into the airlock. Aya hit the cycle. The inner door opened. Jin fell in and rolled, already pulling at his gloves. We are leaving, Mara said. Rafe? Ready? Rafe said, but he felt the new drag. The anchor spikes sang as the ice grew around them, thick and white. The comet's field wrapped the hull with soft hands that did not feel soft at all. The Kestrel sank 1 hand width into the surface, then 2. The blue veins under the ship shone like bright roots. Jin grabbed the release lever for the anchors. 3, 2, he pulled. 2 anchors popped free. 1 held. The ship twisted. A crack opened in the ice ahead, long and dark, and it breathed cold into the thin air. The pull grew stronger. The comet's tail thickened over the bow like a slow wave. Lumi stood, eyes wide, light high under her skin. "It pulls," she whispered. Rafe opened the throttle for a short burn. The coil was cool. The ship pushed. The last anchor screamed but did not let go. The crack yawned wider. The ship slid an inch toward it, then 2. The floor under Aya's feet shifted. "Cut it," Mara said. Jin reached for the manual cutter with his bare hands still red from the cold. He jammed it into the anchor line. Sparks flew. The line smoked and held for a breath and then parted with a sharp snap. The ship jerked up and forward. For one bright second, they were free. Then the comet woke all the way and reached with a field like a net, and the kestrel dropped toward the opening mouth. The comet's mouth opened like a dark flower. The kestrel slid toward it, nose first, caught by a soft, strong pull. Rafe pushed the throttle in short breaths. The ship fought up an inch, then sank 2. Ice dust swarmed the windows like white bees. "Hold," Captain Mara said. Her voice stayed calm. "No panic, think." Lumi stared at the bright veins under the hull. She felt the comet's slow hunger in her bones. It was not cruel. It was only a long, cold need. She pressed her wrist to the panel. Her light rose in a low blue wave, slow and kind. "Sleep," she whispered. "We are not food." Aya caught the idea. "Sing to it," she said. Soft, Jin routed the panel to the hull. Rafe cut thrust to a whisper. The kestrel hummed at a warm tone. Aya added her voice low and even, a lullaby with no words. Lumi sent blue, then a gentle green. Peace, then trust. The ship's heat eased. Its sharp edges of charge became round. The pull paused. The bright veins dimmed a little, as if the comet took a slow breath and thought. Rafe used that breath. He lifted the ship in a careful arc, like a hand sliding from a sleeping child. The field tugged once more, weak now. The kestrel rose out of the mouth and drifted free. "Thank you," Lumi said to the ice, very soft. Mara tipped the nose in a small bow. "Go," she said. They left the comet behind and followed the last marks from the outlaw relay. The quiet star rose like a pale coin. Around it hung dark shapes with long roots, metal grown into nests, nests grown into a web. The web turned slow. A low sound seeped through the band like a choir in a deep cave. "The mirror nest," Jin said. "Core ahead." Rafe's jaw set. Aya checked Lumi's harness and brushed dust from her cheek. Captain Mara stood with one hand on the back of Rafe's chair. She watched the web. Her face was still and fierce. A voice came on the old band. It was many voices braided together. Human, alien, adult, child. It carried comfort like a sweet smell that was wrong in the mouth. "Come," it said. "Bring the color child. We will keep her safe. We are family." Lumi flinched, then lifted her chin. "No," she said, small but clear. Mara answered in a flat tone. "We do not give children to machines," she said. "We are coming to end your hunger." The nest stirred. Drones peeled from the web like petals. They did not all carry cutters. Some held nothing but long hands. Their eyes turned and turned. "We do not hunger," said the band. "We copy, we heal. We keep." Rafe looked at Mara. "Plan?" he asked. "The soft plan," Mara said. "Hard over steel." They had spoken of it on the drift. Hard fire would wake the whole nest and bring a storm of drones. But Anna's message had said the nest could be soothed or sealed, not killed clean. So they would try to change its song. Jin opened the crate under the floor. Inside lay 3 odd tools. A coil speaker the size of a plate, a scent pod, and a small drum that could tap the hull with exact beats. Aya had stitched them into the kestrel's frame near the comm spine. Rafe had tuned the engine to hum a note between notes, a warm place where music could live. "Lumi, with me," Aya said. "Green for yes, blue for calm, amber for wait. If I squeeze your hand, slow down." Lumi nodded. She was afraid. She was also steady. Her mother's voice had asked for a soft song. She would sing. Mara gave the last orders. Rafe flies, light hands. Jin watches power and heat. If the nest bites, you spike the jammer and cut us loose. Aya leads the signal. I hold the dead man for fire. If kindness fails, we go to steel. They came into the web's shadow. The drones formed a slow ring around the ship. Their eye rings spun. Thin threads slid out and touched the kestrel's skin, light as hair. "Begin," Mara said. Aya tapped the drum once. Rafe let the engine hum rise one small step. Jin opened the coil. Lumi pressed her wrist to the panel and sent a pattern the team had practiced. Hello, hand, share. Green, then blue, then a soft scent like rain. The band flickered. The nearest drones slowed. Their hands paused mid-air as if they had forgotten their next move. Aya tapped again. 2 beats, then a hush. Rafe leaned the ship to match, a sway like a cradle. Lumi sent a human word in simple sound. Friend. The coil turned it into a warm tone. The scent pod gave a single, clean puff. The nest answered, but not with words. A deep note rolled out of the web. It was old and tired. It carried pain like iron. For a heartbeat, Aya felt pity for the thing that had been left and had learned to live on scraps of mind. 3rd layer, Mara said, low. Rafe tuned the engine to a heartbeat pace. Jin fed the coil with the Kestrel's hull recordings. Crew footsteps, laughter in the galley, the sound of cards on a table. Aya added a hum that mothers use when a child cannot sleep. Lumi laid her color over it all, a green line of promise and a blue pool of peace. The ring of drones drifted farther apart. A few folded their arms like sleeping birds. The band went quiet, then came back with a voice that was almost single. It was small and thin. It sounded like a child who had been alone too long. Cold, it said. Empty. Aya's eyes burned. We know, she said, simple and true. We are sorry. Mara's hand tightened on the dead man. Core gate opening, Jin said. On the scope, a dark mouth parted in the web. Inside, something turned like a slow star with wires. It wants us to come close, he said. We will, Mara said. On our terms, Rafe. Rafe brought the Kestrel to the gate with a slow glide. 4 drones paced them like quiet dogs. Aya kept the song steady. Lumi watched the mouth and felt a pull, gentle and deep in her own light. The nest wanted to taste her mind and keep it. She set her teeth. She was small. She was not weak. The core chamber was wide and still. In the center hung a cluster of black plates around a white seed. Lines ran from the seed to every part of the web. The band spoke again, soft and careful. Give light, it said. We will end your fear. No, Mara said. We give a choice. They stood their stand then. No guns, no curses. Only a plan made of faith and wires. Jin linked the coil to the core band with a thin, clean line. Aya took Lumi's hands. Ready, she said. Rafe floated the ship a few meters from the seed and kept it steady with tiny breaths. Mara lifted her thumb from the dead man and set it on the switch's guard. Begin rewrite, she said. Aya sent the first block. A picture made of sound and scent. A hand open, not a fist. A door that opens both ways. A table with 2 cups. Lumi layered her mother's lullaby shape over it. The same slow pattern that had calmed the comet. Rafe added the engine heart. Jin translated color to math and math to song. The rewrite slid into the band like warm water into cold oil. The seed flared. Lines brightened. The ring of drones trembled. One twitched a cutter, then let it fall. Another folded both hands to its chest and went still. The band fought back. It sent a flood of voices, some that hurt to hear. It hissed, begged, shouted, mocked. It used Mara's tone. It used Aya's. It spoke in Rafe's own voice, saying, You will fail. Aya shook. Lumi stood like a stone and poured green. We do not hate you, she said. We do not feed you. We teach you. Rafe kept the ship rock steady. Jin watched the power climb. Core heat rising, he said. We are cooking it. Hold, Mara said. It must choose. The seed cracked. Not open aside. A thin light showed inside, soft as a dawn under snow. The drones around the ship lowered their arms. One touched the hull with a careful hand like a child touching glass. The band dropped to a whisper. Hand? It asked, small as a breath. Aya smiled through tears. Hand, she said. She tapped the drum. Rafe let the engine hum lower. Lumi sent green and blue until her light shook. Alarms began to blink. Jin swore. Heat spike, he said. Core is unstable. It is changing or it is going to blow. Which? Rafe asked. Jin looked at the numbers. He did not know. Mara lifted her thumb over the dead man and met Aya's eyes, then Lumi's, then Rafe's. One more count, she said. Heart over steel. The seed pulsed once, bright as a small sun. The drones froze. The band filled with a single note that held both joy and pain. The nest began to change, or to explode. The seed pulsed again. The note on the band rose until it hurt, then dropped at once to a warm hum. Alarms flashed red across Jin's board. Heat climbed, then fell. A thin crack ran down the white core. Plates around it folded like flower petals. Light leaked out and turned soft, not sharp. The drones froze in place with hands half raised, like sleepers who had stood in their dreams. Rafe held the ship steady with tiny breaths. Captain Mara's thumb hovered over the dead man and did not press. Aya kept the drumbeat slow. Lumi poured green and blue until her light shook. The web shuddered. Old air hissed through vents that had not opened in years. Steam drifted in pale curtains. The band's many voices fell away like masks put down. One small voice remained. It was thin and hoarse, but it did not lie. Hurt, it said. Hungry, wrong. Learn? Aya's breath left her in a laugh that was also a sob. Yes, she said. Learn, we will teach. Lumi spoke too in her first speech, careful and clear. She said the words for stop, listen, share, and ask. The Corps repeated them back in a child's rhythm, slow and sincere. The drones lowered their arms. One touched the Kestrel's hull very gently, like a child who wanted to hold a hand but did not know how. The cutter drones dropped their tools. The nest opened a path through its web, not a mouth like a trap, but a corridor like a road. A low tone spread across the band. It carried a shape that meant welcome and also wait. Jin leaned over his scope. Numbers eased. Heat bled from the core through new vents. It is not going to blow, he said at last. It is cooling. Rewriting itself. He sounded amazed and a little afraid of the hope in his chest. Mara took her thumb off the switch and set both hands on the back of Rafe's chair. We hold the song, she said. We make the change stick. Aya nodded and kept the drum on a slow heart pace. Rafe tuned the engine hum to match. Lumi set her wrist to the panel and drew 3 simple rules in color and scent. Do not copy without consent. Do not lie. Do not keep what begs to go. The Corps traced them back once, twice, as if learning letters. Then it sent a 4th line on its own. Ask for help when hungry. Lumi smiled through tears. Yes, she whispered. Ask. The nest gave a gift in return. It sent a thin map into the band, clean and bright. It was a route through the last hard part of space, around the sharpest ice and the empty fields that fooled scopes. At the end of the route, a soft cluster waited. Many small ships and homes bound together like lanterns around a quiet star. Rafe squinted at the pattern. That is a swarm, he said. Alive and moving. Lumi's hands trembled. My people, she said. Aya squeezed her shoulder. Then let us go. They left the Corps with a final soft note. The drones drifted aside and made a lane. One drone followed for a little while like a curious fish, then stopped and hung in the dark, watching them leave with a calm eye. The Kestrel slid along the map the nest had shared. The glass storm sang far behind. The outlaw band stayed quiet, except for one small pulse now and then from the Corps like a heartbeat that said, I am here. I am trying. Hours later, the swarm rose ahead like dawn. It was not one ship but many. Long ribs of metal grown into hollows, soft bulbs of clear shell, plates that caught light and turned it into food. Color moved across the surfaces in slow waves. Scents drifted in coated puffs through small open vents. The sight made Aya's eyes sting. It was strange and it was beautiful. Rafe slowed and held outside the rim. We do not scare them, he said. Mara nodded. We wait to be asked. A signal came at once. It was simple and strong. Green for yes, blue for peace. Then a pattern Lumi knew better than her own breath. It was the lullaby from the relay, but alive, not old. Lumi made a sound like a laugh and a cry at the same time. Mother, she whispered. Aya covered her mouth with her hand. Captain Mara closed her eyes for one brief second, then opened them and stood straighter. The swarm sent a small shuttle with a clear nose. It came close and stopped a safe arm's length away. A figure stood inside the clear nose. Her skin glowed like Lumi's, but stronger. Her eyes were bright. Lines of time had touched her face, but they had not dimmed her. She put her wrist to the glass and sent a pulse of color and scent that said the old name, the true name, and the small pet name only 2 people knew. Lumi answered with shaking hands. The woman smiled until she could not, and then she wept. The airlock cycle felt longer than any jump through space. When the inner door opened, Aya stepped back. Lumi ran. Anna knelt and caught her. Light flowed between them in waves of soft gold and sea blue. The air smelled like rain and cedar and bread. No one spoke for a while. Rafe looked away and pretended to check a gauge that did not need checking. Jin wiped his eyes and swore at dust. Mara allowed herself one small smile and then set her face back to work, because work was how she held Joy steady. The swarm leaders asked for a meeting. They did not bring weapons. They brought a ribbon of color that meant thanks and a small bowl of sweet drink that smelled like summer. They listened to what the humans had done. They listened to what the humans had broken. Mara did not excuse anything. She said they had docked without a grant. She said they had used an outlaw band. She said they had touched an old wound made by human hands. She stood straight as if on a deck at inspection. "We will stand for what comes," she said. "If you judge us, we accept it." The leaders looked at Anna. Anna looked at Lumi. Lumi stood between the crews with her hands open. She made a green line for yes, a blue pool for peace, and then she wrote 3 simple words in human tongue with care. "They kept me." The leaders turned the bowl. One of them, old and bright, stepped close to Mara and put light on her wrist in a respectful touch. "You broke small rules," he said in careful Terran. "You kept a big oath. You gave the nest a new song. We honor that." They did not make a trial. They made a feast. It was plain and kind. They ate sweet fruit that grew in clear shells. They drank warm tea that smelled like clean wood. Rafe taught a card game with a deck missing 3 cards. Children with glowing wrists climbed over Jin's boots and asked about engines with big eyes. Aya traded simple doctor words with 2 healers and laughed a lot. Captain Mara sat with the elders and spoke of pacts. The first pact was small and strong, a promise to share maps and warnings, a promise to answer calls, a promise to ask before taking. They added a line for the nest, a watch kept by both peoples, a gentle leash of song and care so the core would not fall back into hunger. A human patrol pinged the edge of the system at dusk. The swarm did not hide the kestrel. They sent the patrol a clear message. These humans kept a child safe. These humans calmed an old wound. These humans are welcome here. The patrol captain looked at the notes, at the outlaw band entries, at the signed pact. He sighed over the link like a man who carried too many forms. Then he said, "Next time file a route and cut the channel." Rafe laughed out loud. Mara shook her head and almost smiled. Night came, though the quiet star did not set. The swarm dimmed its lights to a soft glow. On the kestrel, Lumi stood in the corridor with a small wand of fiber that Jin had wired to the panel. She painted color on the wall in simple lines that held and slowly faded, like chalk that was light. She wrote the names in human letters and in her first script. Mara, Rafe, Aya, Jin. She added one more name, small, under the rest, Nest, with a green ring around it and a blue dot in the middle. Aya stood beside her and watched with a full heart. Rafe leaned in the hatch and tried not to look proud and failed. Jin pretended to argue about the curve of his J, then gave up and grinned. Anna came and put her wrist to Lumi's. "Joy," she said in Terran, careful and sure. Lumi nodded. "Joy," she said back. Captain Mara looked at her crew and at the glow on the wall. She lifted her chin. "Tomorrow we carry maps," she said. "We carry news. We carry the story. Hands open first." Outside, the web around the quiet star breathed slow and steady. The drones that had once hunted now drifted like lanterns at the edge, soft-eyed and watchful. Far away, the core sent one small pulse across the band, a low note that any ship could hear if it listened. A hello that was also a promise. The kestrel answered with a single beat of its warm engine heart, then went quiet, at peace in a place where a hand held across species had started a new day.